shortly before Jerusalem crumbled into ruins. A prophet wept. He didn't cry out of fear, nor out of weakness. He wept because he saw something everyone else chose to ignore. Something hidden, right in plain sight. And when he tried to warn them, he was silenced. What Jeremiah saw would change history. But no one ever told you why he wept. Until now. In those days, Jerusalem still seemed safe. People walked through the markets, the temple was full. And the religious leaders kept saying, "Nothing will happen. God is with us." But beyond the walls, the dust of Babylon was already rising. Troops were moving. Entire armies were marching, and no one wanted to believe it. Jeremiah saw it all. He warned them, pleaded with them, but the people laughed. They called him a traitor, a fanatic, a madman. They believed they were protected, without realizing that the real danger was no longer outside the city. And it was at that very moment, when everyone felt safest, that Jeremiah began to weep. He knew that the destruction approaching was not just the end of a city. It was the beginning of a revelation. Outwardly, everything looked normal. The priests still offered sacrifices, the songs still echoed through the temple. And people went about their lives as if God were still there. But Jeremiah knew, the presence had already departed. He saw leaders corrupted, judges selling justice, and families trading faith for convenience. And every time he spoke, the laughter grew louder. "Jeremiah, stop talking about destruction," they shouted. "The temple stands. Jerusalem will never fall." But they didn't understand. The temple was already empty. The stones still shone. But the heart of the nation was already in ruins. And so, in the midst of that collective illusion, Jeremiah wept. Not because the city would fall tomorrow, but because spiritually, it already had. Those tears were not weakness. They were discernment. Jeremiah saw what no one else could see. And when he realized that no one was listening anymore, he understood, judgment would not come by accident. It would come because the people chose to close their ears. So, why did Jeremiah weep? It wasn't only for what he saw outside the walls. He wept because he saw something no one else wanted to see. Something hidden in plain sight. The city could have survived. The walls could have held. But the heart of the people was already corrupted. Idolatry, injustice, families selling truth for profit. Every stone of the temple seemed to whisper a lie. "We are safe." But Jeremiah saw the truth no one dared to admit. Jerusalem's destruction was not just physical. It was spiritual. Each tear fell for a nation already lost to its own sin. He wept for hollow faith, for broken promises, for words of God ignored. And here's what few realize. Jeremiah didn't only weep for the city. He wept because he knew no one else would heed the final warning. That history was about to repeat itself. Because no one had learned the lesson. He saw patterns we still fail to see today. Every ignored sign, every dismissed warning, was like an arrow aimed straight at Jerusalem's heart. And in the silence of the streets, he wept. Because he knew, tears might be the only sign left that no one could ignore. And the most haunting part? Jeremiah stood alone. He cried out, he pleaded, he warned, but the leaders stayed blind. The people clung to empty rituals, distracted by what looked holy but was dead inside. He saw the invisible danger, and no one else could see it. And here lies the true reason for his tears. It wasn't the city's fall he mourned. It was the loss of what could never be recovered. Identity. Faith. Morality. The very soul of a nation was condemned. And he was the only one who saw it clearly. Each tear carried a message the people refused to receive. You still have time to listen, before it's too late. And yet, few paid attention. The world was blind to what truly mattered. But Jeremiah knew, history would never forget those tears. And now, neither will you. Now imagine this: Jerusalem fell. But what if I told you that the same mistakes that led to its destruction still exist today? What Jeremiah saw wasn't just about walls and stones. It was about hearts, empty, distracted, blind to the signs that could have saved them. Can you see it in our own world? In the choices we ignore. In leaders who promise protection but sell distraction. In broken vows and hollow rituals we follow, believing they'll keep us safe. Jeremiah wept because he understood. External destruction is only the reflection of internal decay. And if we don't pay attention to the signs, to the same patterns repeating through history, we're destined to make the same mistakes. He saw injustice, collective blindness, the loss of what truly matters. And we can see the same today, if we're willing to look closely. Each tear of his is a warning for our time. Look around you. What you value, is it real? Or just appearance? Think of our cities, our institutions, our families, our communities. Where does the surface seem strong, but the heart is already corroded? Where is our protection nothing but illusion? Jeremiah leaves us with a question no one wants to answer. Are we ready to face the truth before it's too late? Because the comfort of blindness is the very thing that brings inevitable collapse. And here's the shock. The destruction we see around us often began within us. That's why Jeremiah's tears still echo. They're not just about Jerusalem. They're about every generation that chooses to ignore the signs. That prefers empty comfort over hard truth. And if you look closely, if you truly listen to what he tried to show us, maybe there's still time to change the course of history. And before we uncover Jeremiah's final warning, click subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss any of the messages I share here. What Jeremiah wept for doesn't have to happen again. But only if we're willing to see, reflect, and act. Otherwise, history always repeats itself. And we'll be the next ones staring at the ruins, wondering how we got there. Jeremiah wept, but his tears were not in vain. They carried a message that transcends time. A warning for all who look only at the surface and ignore what's happening within themselves and around them. What he saw before Jerusalem's fall wasn't just history. It was a mirror. A mirror forcing us to confront the signs we've ignored. The truths we pretend not to see. And the patterns that keep repeating through generations. He wept because he knew. Outer destruction is only the result of inner collapse. That empty faith, ignored justice, and moral blindness always come before physical ruin. And here's where the message becomes personal. Look at the world today. Where are the walls that look strong but hide emptiness? Where are the leaders who ignore signs and favor convenience? Where are the broken promises eating away at the heart of people and nations? Jeremiah wept because he saw a truth few dare to face. Destruction isn't inevitable. But collective blindness makes it almost certain. Each tear was a call, an urgent warning. If you don't listen now, it will be too late. And even though no one listened then, we can listen now. We can learn. We can reflect. We can act. If you truly open your eyes, it may still be possible to change the course of history. Because Jeremiah's tears were not just sorrow. They were a warning. An invitation. To see the truth. To mend what's broken. To protect what truly matters. Jeremiah wept before the destruction. And now, his tears echo for you. So ask yourself. Are you seeing the signs around you? Or ignoring the lesson Jeremiah left behind? Jeremiah's tears remind us that true destruction doesn't begin with walls collapsing. It begins when we ignore what's decaying within us and around us. Today, we can still learn from his warning. We can open our eyes, notice the signs, and guard what truly matters. And if you want to keep discovering untold stories, hidden revelations, and timeless lessons that reshape the way we see history and the present, this channel is your place. Click subscribe now and turn on notifications, so you don't miss any of the messages that can change the way you see the world and your own story. May God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.